All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Athletic Studio podcast. I think I'm just going to try something different with the intro today, Holly, and just get straight into it. I just feel very repetitive with
sounds good.
saying the same thing. If there's a new guest, I'll let you guys know. But for the time being,
I'm Hollie.
it's just me and Holly. So we're going to go through diet hacks that actually work. They're high protein, deficit friendly, easy to stick to. When we have consultations, it's getting in their protein is probably like our number one
thing,
or the biggest thing.
Yeah.
People have different lifestyles. They're quite busy. So
and it's not a big focus for a lot of people, protein. It's the one thing that everyone doesn't eat enough of, I find.
Yeah, I find that weird because we're in the fitness industry. It makes sense, right? So that's like my number one food source.
For us it is, but for people who aren't around this all the time and who maybe have never trained before, it's just not on the top of their list.
Yeah. What do you find they're doing?
Carbs. A lot of carbs, yeah.
Is that because they're probably just eating foods that they've become accustomed to?
Yeah, and it's
time,
easy.
Right?
They're comfort foods, a lot of pastas, breads, sandwiches, all that.
And that quick energy fix and then the big slump 2-3 hours later.
Yeah.
That's no good.
If only they had some protein.
Yeah, but the thing is that like most people, if they're getting into their fitness goal or wanting to get some results, they know what foods they should be eating. So one of the things that I like to do when I sit down with a client is I might ask them for their food diary, and that kind of gives me a sense of where they're at. So they're either going to be knowledgeable with their food quality, so they'll be eating healthy foods, but like you said, maybe there's not enough protein in that. And then on the other end of the spectrum is they just don't know how to eat healthy also.
Yeah. Of course, there's two extremes, I guess.
So the quality of the food. So the person who's eating like good quality of food, they just need to actually more focus on the quantity.
Yeah, exactly. They might be overeating. Yeah, because healthy foods, like you can still eat too much of certain things. And healthy foods, labelled as healthy foods, a lot of them tend to always be high in calorie, so that you just have to monitor that.
Yeah, okay. Are you speaking from experience, Ollie?
Oh, of course. I think everyone probably has had that experience.
I don't.
But even things like protein bars and a lot of health food products in Coles and stuff, they are super high in calories. Protein balls, all of that.
Yeah, you want to
People might think they're healthy because they're labelled as healthy. They can creep up on you, those extra calories. Yeah.
So I think the first thing though is you want to identify what you need to work on. So it's either going to be, do I need to be someone who's needs to work on my food quality first? Or am I someone who needs to focus on the quantity? So if someone needs to work on their quality, and this would be like, okay, going to McDonald's and getting pancakes and a bacon and egg McMuffin every day. You're going out to get fast food quite frequently. I think our listeners are probably like a little bit more like health savvy than that. I don't think the people who would be low on quality would be listening to this podcast anyway.
Health and fitness podcast.
Yeah.
It'd probably be more of a quantity issue. Yeah.
But then I think probably like in regards to quality, what could be relevant to our clients is probably like Uber Eats. If they're having too much of that, you just got to be wary. Yeah, and it comes back down to results tracking as well. If you're not getting your results, okay, well, because it's so convenient, how many times are you getting this and what are you ordering?
Yeah. Quality could also be like if people are consuming too many like fake products, protein powders, protein bars, protein balls, like I was saying before. Can you make that swap and switch it out for a whole food source?
Yeah. Yeah, so anything that's hunted, gathered, fished and plucked, you want to be eating like, what would your percentage be? My percentage is personally like 90%. I
would say the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I basically eat whole foods all the time, except if you go out for dinner or whatever. Yeah.
But even then...
Or like a protein bar, something. If I know I'm not going to hit my protein in the day or I'm at work and I'm busy, I'll just have a quick protein bar on the go.
Yeah.
But I try not to have them too often.
Yeah, I think my percentage there is probably about 95% when it comes to healthy foods.
Yeah,
it's actually quite bad. I know it's actually quite good, but it's probably more the quantity. Yeah, see?
Yeah, it's a key issue.
I know, it's a quantity thing. All right, so let's say the quantity is the next thing that we need to work on. Then the number one macronutrient that we said before we want to focus on is protein, right? We need to figure out what your gap is, like where you are compared to where you need to be. Now, when it comes to weight loss, body composition, playing sport, 1.5 grams per kilo body weight is the bare ass minimum. And I'd probably say that's still a little bit too low. I personally like 1.8, even up to 2.
Yeah, 1.9.
1.9, somewhere in the middle. So yeah, you don't scare them out with the 2 grams per kilo.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You have to see where like the person, what they're currently eating. Because if they're sitting at 1 gram per kilo of body weight or less, and then you try and push them to that 1.7 mark, there's no way they're going to fit in that much food comfortably or want to be able to do that. You have to increase that slowly
Yeah.
into their diet.
Okay, yeah, and that's right. So let's say if we're like we have a 60-kilo woman, right? And that's pretty light. Let's say their goal is just to their training and it's just general health, building some retaining lean muscle, building lean muscle, getting fitter and stronger. That particular person, we want them to be having about anywhere between 100 to 120 grams of protein. And it's probably more commonly they might be sitting at 60, 70. What would be the number one thing that you would recommend?
I would recommend just look at your day on a plate and try and get 30 to 35 grams of protein in at each meal per day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So you should hit that nearly 100 grams of protein easy if you're focusing on that anyway.
Yeah.
Like that should be number one priority.
Yeah, that's right. If you're eating healthy already and you just find that your protein is low, just make protein the number one focus. And plan it out. Okay, I'm going to split it up into 3 or 4 meals.
Yeah.
That could be eggs or something in the morning, smoked salmon. You're going to have to find foods and food sources that you like to get that in. And it could even just be like changing the serving sizes as well. So a lot of people, they like to have leftover dinner for lunch. Just make sure that you're having enough. Yeah, so it could be start off with a palm and 4 finger size or a palm size of protein.
Yeah, because then people might find that they get super full, but then that's where you cut back on other things like your carbs and your fats. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Protein should be that number one, and then everything else should follow suit behind it.
Correct, and that's going to make your weight loss goal, if it's a weight loss goal, so much easier because by the time you've eaten all your protein, you're not going to want to have as many carbs.
Exactly. More protein, lose fat.
Another tip that I like to give to clients is just have a high quality protein shake. That's an easy 25 to 30 grams of protein. And if that's your gap, just have that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Sometimes I have consultations and we feed out, okay, to get you to your protein goal, we only need 30 grams of protein. And I'm like, this is very easily solvable. You're going to have a protein shake every day. And then they come back to me like, oh, I don't like protein powders. I'm not sure what's in them, blah, blah, blah. And I understand the skepticism around them. Like there are some very shit quality ones, but for the majority of the time, if you get a whey protein isolate or a hydrolyzed whey protein isolate, they're the highest quality ones. And you're not getting it from like a shelf from your Coles or Woolworths or main grocery store. You get it from an actual sporting supplement shop. It's going to be clean. And it's nothing to stress over because I guarantee you your 1 to 2 glasses of wine is probably doing more damage than the protein powder that I'm asking you to have.
However, if people don't want to have that protein shake, because I get it, like I don't have a protein shake every day, but I hit my protein easily. I'm hitting like 140 to 150 grams of protein per day and I'm not having a protein shake.
Yeah, okay.
It can be done. You just have to plan your meals around it. If you're having protein at every meal, it's so easy. Easy.
So just
have a steak for dinner, that bumps it up.
Yeah, that's true. And you can do things step by step as well. Just for example, all right, focus on getting your protein up first. And then let's say that's just going to help you with your strength, recovery, building lean muscle. And then later on, if we find that you're maybe in a calorie surplus, all right, then let's focus on some other strategies of choosing different carb sources and fat sources that are going to help you stay at the calorie target where we want you to be. And then, Hollie, let's talk about some go-to grocery hacks because you're telling me that you don't have a protein shake, you're getting all these meals in. What are your strategies when you go and buy foods?
Yeah, so I basically have a list of things that I have in my fridge and my cupboard all the time that ensures that I hit my protein. So like I've always got like chicken, mince, steak's a big one. Been eating a lot of steak at the moment. So that's most of the dinner food sorted. Eggs, I know they've been hard to buy recently, but when you can get your hands on them, snatch up a few cartons of eggs. You can boil them and keep them in the fridge for breakfast so it's easy on the go. Yogurt is a massive one. I always have yogurt for breakfast, which bumps up the protein. So whether that's Greek, YoPros, any of that. And yeah, just like I do have a protein powder, so on days if I do know I'm not going to hit my protein, I will definitely have it in. Or if I'm training that day and I know I'm going to get hungry, I'll have that protein shake. But yeah, it's not always needed if I do have those things on the go at home ready for me.
What about your carb sources and fat sources?
Carbs, yeah. Oats, Wheat Bix, whether that be just like bread even for lunch, as long as I'm focusing on my protein there as well. Lots of potatoes and veggies and stuff at night. Yeah,
that's quite similar to me as well. I think what helped me in the beginning was I would always just focus on walking the perimeter of the grocery store first. So during the weekdays, you'll rarely see me going like through the middle aisles.
Yeah.
Just because
It's a great one, actually.
Yeah, because I just don't. Cause that's where obviously all the processed stuff is, right? So you always want to. If you're not doing that, if you're going straight to the middle aisles, it's fucking weird.
So true.
That's weird. Yeah. So you always go. Yeah, just go straight to the vegetables first, and then you go over, get your protein, and then you're probably gonna go over to the other side and then maybe get some. If you are going to go down the middle aisles, it's probably going to get some rice.
Tuna.
Yeah, rice, tuna, Wheat Bix.
Yeah.
And then on the other side,
Coffee.
you might be getting your fats, cheeses, goat's cheese.
Yeah, it's
yogurts.
all down that other end as
well.
well.
One thing I've been having lately is like low-fat cheese as well. And that can...
The Becca one?
I'm not sure.
Actually, I think that's only from Woolies and you shop at Coles, so it's a good one.
That's a good one. And I worked out the difference. There's like easily 100 to 150, 120 calorie difference per serving sizes. So it's a good way
Makes a difference. It's a banana.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So the thing is, we don't like to tell you exactly what to have. Your appetite for certain foods is going to be different. So you got to have like your staples, like your protein staples, carb staples, fat staples, and just keep it like your healthy foods and just keep it super simple throughout the week.
I know a lot of people, they like change, they like variety, and that's why they fall off the bandwagon, is because they can't have the same thing for breakfast, lunch and dinner. But just have your main staple ingredients at home.
Yeah.
But then you can just change it up all the time, and like whether you change your dinners or your lunches, like it's so easy to do as long as you've got the right ingredients.
Yeah, we plan ahead, like me and Emily, like we plan ahead for our dinners. So we just have to do something different each night, or we might have it or 2 nights of the week. But normally it's 5 or 6 healthy meal rotations that we would apply. Steak, potatoes and veg, easy. Could even be like gluten-free pasta with mince. Another good trick is if you're, let's say, watching your carb intake or your calorie intake, just mixing the pastas as well. So you can get like those low carb or low calorie pastas, those bean pastas, and then you mix it in with like normal pasta.
Yeah.
So you could do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
You just got to get creative with it. There's so many recipes out there, so there's really no kind of excuses. And you can probably do the same thing with eating out too. Having you go to, okay, what are the healthiest places where I can go and, if I do need to get takeaway or if I do need to go out and eat it at a cafe, just find out. You're going to have to experiment and maybe go and have a look at the menus of your local businesses.
Yeah, well, a lot of places, they have like the macros on there anyway.
Do they?
Yeah, if you got a grilled, you can go and get a grilled burger and it'll have how many kilojoules are in each burger, and you can just track that in MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, true.
Chuck it straight in.
Yeah.
If you do want to have a meal out, like, there's a great option.
Yeah, so MyFitnessPal is a totally different thing because, if you combine this with tracking on MyFitnessPal, then that's great. That's for the people that want variety as well. That's the number one thing I tell them. Just track it then. If you're telling me that you have a goal, a body composition goal, and you're not tracking because you want to eat certain types of foods, there's a misalignment there with what you're telling me and your actions. So I don't think, do you actually really want to achieve this goal or not?
It's not high on their priority list.
Yeah, exactly. So you can definitely do that. As the more weight that you're losing, as the diet gets a little bit harder, then that's where you're going to have to get more creative with your nutrition.
And there's so many like recipes out there on Instagram, TikTok, online that do fit. If you have a calorie goal and you do have a goal, that can fit into your macros. Just make it work.
Have you been on the ice cream ones? You know, they got the machine.
Ice cream one.
The ice cream blending machines.
Oh, the Ninja Creamy.
Ninja Creamy?
We have one at home, but I've actually never used it. Andy bought it and I haven't given it a go.
Yeah, okay.
I got a small kitchen, so it's just hiding away in the cupboard.
I got one.
You got one?
I tried it. It's pretty, like, you got to get the ingredients right. Because if you keep it super clean, let's say you use like almond milk, protein powder, and then you put in like xanthan gum to make it a little bit more textury, it can still turn out icy and frosty as well. So you got to let it, there's certain ways you got to do it. But then I was figuring it out, right? Okay, if you do a super clean one, it's probably going to be about 250, 300 calories. They make high protein ice cream that you can get from Coles and Woolworths that are at about 250 to 300 calories anyway. And a professional has made that and it tastes like 100 times better. And obviously, yes, you may have a little bit more ingredients on there, so it's not going to be as clean. But
I think they're not, like, people love it because they can make which flavours they like and stuff. Like, you can't just probably go to Coles and buy Biscoff
definitely
protein yogurt. But you can make one at home. Obviously, that'll not as clean, so it'll be higher in calorie. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably it's definitely cheaper when you use the Ninja Creamy too.
Yeah, but you got to buy the Ninja.
Yeah, that's all right. That's not that much. But yeah, what I was trying to say there is sometimes you don't want to, a lot of the coaches here say it, like you don't want to major in the minors. So when people who are focused on the quality of food, then they're like, oh, like everything just needs to be super clean, or they just get obsessed over the ingredients in certain foods.
Preservatives and stuff.
Whereas if you're in a little bit of a calorie deficit, you're training, you're living a fairly healthy lifestyle, your body is capable of detoxifying these particular things. It can handle it.
Yeah. So that's the power of living a healthy lifestyle.
Sometimes you can add more stress. That's why I just focus on a number of key things. Your protein, having 90% healthy whole foods, salad or vegetables at least 2 of your meals.
Yep.
Water. And then you're going to be pretty sweet. Hollie, give some meal prep and planning ideas. How do you go about it, or how do you find like your best clients who are on top of their meals? What do they do? They're
just like the best people who stick to their goals and their plan are the people who are organised and pre-prepare. You sit down the day before, just like 2 minutes in bed before you go on to sleep. Okay, what am I doing tomorrow? I've got a busy schedule. What am I going to have for breakfast, lunch, dinner? If they know they get a little bit peckish in the afternoon, they have that planned out so they do have those extra calories remaining so they can have a snack when needed.
Yeah.
For me, myself, I think I know I prep my breakfast every single day. I wake up, whether I'm having my breakfast here at work, Weet-Bix, protein yogurt, all of that, berries, or I'll have my breakfast at home and I'll weigh out my oats and I'll put my protein powder in a bowl ready to go, so it's all done for me in the morning. All I have to do is put water in it and chuck it in the microwave.
Yeah.
So easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You're more someone who prepares the night before, the day before.
Yeah.
And then we have obviously other clients.
It depends on the individual, depends on their work, family, all of that. So you just have to figure out which works best for you. Like a lot of people might work from home and they have that like flexibility to do that during the day. Yeah, whereas people, if they're in the office, they don't. So you have to pre-prepare that. Yeah.
So I'll give you guys a couple other ways that you can do, because I've pretty much done them all. I mainly use your strategy as well. When I first got into health and fitness, I'd be one of those people. All right, on a Sunday, I'm gonna cook and then meal prep. I'll lay out the 15 containers and then just put all the meals in that, and that was great. That worked. And my recommendation for that one is you want to keep things as simple as possible. Put in your protein, your carbs, your veg. If you're not having carbs in certain meals, then obviously just keep it protein and veg. You don't need to put condiments, and then that can be like the variety as well. If you're missing out on variety, you can play around with the condiments after, or you can just change the carb sources. So one day you might go rice, or one day you might go sweet potato or pumpkin.
Yeah.
One thing that worked really well for me as well is that instead of planning all those meals, I would actually just use my Weber and I'd cook like 1 kilo to 2 kilos of protein, and I'll just put that into a tray and I'll cut it up and I'll put it into a tray, and that would just be my protein source for the whole week.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't bother planning the containers. I would just, let's say, eyeball out 150 grams of protein per serve, and I'll just have that at X amount of meals throughout the day. So that way you're at least prioritizing that. And then the next thing would be just the meal delivery services.
Yeah, that's a great one as well.
Yeah. And for that one, just start off with the meal that you're actually struggling with the most, or that you find frustration with.
You don't have time for.
You don't have time for. You don't like. Yeah. I know. A couple of our clients, they used to do it for dinner quite a fair bit. But for me, like, I don't really want to have those meals for dinner. I want to have it like a fresh thing. So it's more about breakfast and lunch. Yeah. And that's where...
So also a good idea for brekkie, because a lot of people tend to skip breakfast, and if they have that meal already there for them, that's your protein. That's your meal done, sorted, and then you got the rest of the day.
That's right. And if you have something that's a solid meal or a good meal, it could even be what you have. It could be overnight Weet-Bix, overnight oats with some protein and some yogurt. It's only going to add up to about 150, 200 calories, right? It's actually not a lot. So there's no reason for someone to be scared to not have breakfast. Like I had with one of the pre-made meals that I bought, was just steak and vegetables. And that's only about 200 and a bit calories.
Yeah.
And you've got energy, your blood sugar is more stable, so it sets you up for the rest of the day. Hollie, do you have any other clean eating tips for clients? Any strategies for them to make things easier to stick to?
Not really, that I can think of at the top of my head. I think we've covered most of them. Yeah, just a big one for me is just being prepared.
Yeah, preparation.
Yeah, preparation is key.
And then having your own system that works for you. Yeah, don't worry about what everyone else is doing, especially like what's on TikTok and whatever, because you're going to be leading your life quite differently. So you got to figure out what works for you.
A lot of the people on TikTok and stuff, they've got hours to spend in the middle of the day 100%. Just to prepare these meals.
Yeah, look, that's correct. If they've got an hour to prepare that TikTok that they've filmed, it's most likely like they've got all the time in the world to prepare those super healthy meals. On that, I saw this amazing Instagram reel where he compared certain types of foods, different types of dishes, right? And one was obviously, let's say 500 calories. And then this one's 300 calories, like one's on the right, one's on the left. And he had 5 different meals, like proper meals on plates. The only thing that I thought was like the amount of time he had that would have taken to prepare for this 1 minute video. Like, good on him, because it was obviously very popular and trending. But like, I hope he gave those meals away for someone to eat, because they did look good too.
Or it was his meal prep.
Yeah, that's his meal prep.
Yeah.
That's his meal prep. So yeah, find a strategy that works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for today's episode. Hopefully you got something practical you can start applying straight away to your training or nutrition.
And if you feel like you need any help putting it all together, the Athletic Studio Live coaching program gives you everything. Custom training, personalised nutrition, and real support from a coach who actually cares.
You can start with a 7-day free trial, and you can cancel anytime. Just head to the link in show notes and let's get to work.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Athletic Studio Live for daily tips, behind the scenes, and real client wins.
And of course, like, subscribe, and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. We're just getting started.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Train smart, eat well, and take action.
Let's go.